Yo, this is such an honor, man. Stan Efferding, I gotta say, I'm a little starstruck right now. Thanks for coming on over, and we're gonna have a killer time here today.
No problem at all. Well, it's been a hell of a trip. I lost my bags.
Oh my gosh.
At the airport last night, and I'm a big fan of the CPAP.
Uh-huh.
And it's probably been, it's been a couple years. I was actually on a trip to Canada a couple years ago. I came up here and I lost my bag.
Oh my gosh.
And I woke up the next morning, I was hoarse and my eyes were bloodshot, and I got on Craigslist and found 20 minutes up the road somebody had to use CPAP. And so
oh man. Talk about the CPAP, just to make sure. I don't want anybody to not know what you're talking about.
Oh man, what happens is when you get to training and your neck gets thick, it's not always about a bad BMI, although that's a pretty big contributor, is just being overweight. But it ends up crowding the airway, and you end up holding your breath at night, and that's called sleep apnea, and it causes so many problems: high blood pressure, a host of other problems. But just being tired, not recovering from workouts, holding your breath all night, losing sodium, waking up just exhausted. And I did that for years back in college or just after college as my weight climbed from 230, 240, 250, 260. It got worse and worse and worse.
Wow.
And so eventually, I was driving to work in the morning, falling asleep.
No kidding, yeah.
It's exhausting.
No kidding.
You don't recover from workouts. Progress just halts. And there's so many other, negative things that go along with that. But the CPAP is like a 99.9% cure, if you can use that word with anything these days. You put that thing on, you wake up the next morning, it's like your life changed. You're out cleaning the gutters, mowing your lawn, washing your car. It's just the world changes. And I don't say that about too many things.
Yeah.
I'm not a big supplement guy and all that other stuff, but it's life changing. And I've been obviously, talking a lot about it. And every time I get on.
How long have you been using it?
Boy, I tell you, since the early 90s, there was a 10-year period there which I didn't compete, that my weight dropped down 220, 215, and I didn't need it. And then as I started getting back into competition, my weight started climbing. Then the apnea resurfaced. And so I used it. And so I travel with it, I nap with it, I sleep with it every night. It sounds like my teddy bear, right?
Yeah.
I take it everywhere I go. And last night I didn't have it, so of course I woke up early this morning, and again I was just
you can feel it.
beat. You can feel it. You walk around in a fog, that brain fog. But
so you got some high level guys doing this now too?
Yeah, I was shocked to find out that Hafthor Bjornsson and Brian Shaw did not have a CPAP. People just, I guess it's kind of like they say you throw a frog in cold water and turn the heat on, it'll boil to death or whatever.
Right.
I don't know I don't even know if there's any truth to that. But just throw it in hot water, jumps right out.
Right.
So I guess people just over time, they get used to feeling shitty.
Right.
I say that about cops and donut shops. They don't know how bad they feel because that's how they feel every day, all day. And it's not until you fix that problem, or the same thing with nutrition, you start eliminating certain foods that you didn't realize were, wreaking havoc on your body. Let's say, with respect to my vertical diet, people, you stray, you pay.
Yeah.
You get on a program of health, and all of a sudden you start feeling better, and then you end up at a Carl's Jr., a pizza place, and you're pissed at me because you're wrecked.
Yeah.
But you were always wrecked. You just didn't recognize it because that was your general circumstance. That's the way you lived every day. You get used to it.
Yeah.
You get used to the stink of the dogs in your house, the way the wet dogs, until a friend comes over and it's like, dude, it stinks like wet dog in here. And you don't even realize it. Cigarette smokers not realizing how nasty their car smells. And
right.
I don't mean to go on and on, but the point is that
you get conditioned to a new norm.
You do. And until you start fixing these things, you don't realize how significant it is. And to get back to the CPAP, my God, it was life-changing for these people to be able to.
So this was a big needle mover for you. This is a big. This in the 80-20 rule, this is one of those things that moves the needle.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, it's the number one thing I put in my vertical diet download. Sleep. This is first because it's most important.
Gotcha.
And it just leads off for everything. What we call on Mind Pump called the big rocks.
Right. Yes.
And it's a priority.
Yeah.
And I focus on that. I would rather have somebody sleep than train if it was compromised.
Interesting.
That's why I've said many times about female athletes, they're notorious for getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do an hour of fasted cardio after only 5 hours of sleep.
Right.
I say they're stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels. They're suppressing metabolism.
Yeah.
All of the things that
love that
happen.
analogy.
And it's a losing battle.
So who turned you on to this? Where did you start, really focusing on identifying, getting the most from the least and, working smarter, not just harder? Because you're talking about, yes, you you can push, you can hit the gas pedal, but you're also talking about steering right now. You're talking about the brakes, you know, to ensure that the car doesn't crash.
Yeah. Boy, I wish I had somebody that had taught me that 30 years ago. I was like a lot of people. I just started grinding, and you just figured out along the way, hey, I hit this roadblock. You end up with on these plateaus, or you just progress stalls, and you got to kind of dig down deep, and you're looking around for gimmicks and tricks. So maybe I can take some creatine, or maybe there's some
shortcut
stack or cycle that's going to fix this problem. And you find out after a while, it's the same thing with bad technique in powerlifting or weightlifting.
Yeah.
You know, you can get pretty far, but eventually you're going to top out. And that's kind of what happened all along the way. I just discovered that hey, it's these little things, or what you might have previously considered to be little things that matter.
Let's talk about some more non-sexy little things. So you got the CPAP. What next? What was some of the other game? Yeah, I don't like the word game changers.
Yeah,
I don't know if anything is a game changer, but like if we were to use that term,
You know, I came in here this morning, and the first conversation that came up was about sodium. It seems to be such a hot topic now.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it for a couple of years. It's probably one of the biggest things that I hear from clients or people who follow my stuff. All over the world. They'll reach out to me with emails and say, dude, I started salting my food and I set a 20 kilo PR. At powerlifting meets. That's the
huge.
First thing people tell me.
20 kilo PR.
And it
from
happens,
salting your foods.
If previously
let's just make sure they're straight. What kind of salt are we looking here for?
You know, I refer to Dr. D. Nicolantonio's research, author of The Salt Fix. He's an extraordinary, well-researched individual, PhD in pharmacology. He mentions that Redmond real salt is one of the better salts. Redmond real salt, because it's from an ancient seabed, so it doesn't have a lot of say microplastics in it that would be from, say, a sea salt. It's pretty pure, and it does have some iodine in it.
Yep.
Not a lot.
A lot of people avoid iodine.
Yeah, and that's a shame too, and we might get there today, but it's another key component. You know,
Right.
Probably not a game changer, but certainly significant for some people with thyroid deficiencies. But so yeah, pink salt's fine. I usually chase iodine. In my diet, I use cranberry juice because it's more potent.
Like with post-workout, or does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's another micronutrient that the body needs, that you should get from nutrition.
I like it, yeah.
First, before supplementation. And so I find an optimal source, a highly bioavailable, source that has a significant amount in it, and I include it in my diet. And I do that across the board with everything. If I need iron and B12, I'm going to go to red meat. You know, if I need omega-3s, I'm going to go to a salmon. If I need choline and biotin and K2, I'm going to use egg yolks.
Yes.
So I try to find the foods that provide me the most easy to digest, most easily to assimilate. You know,
what kind of calories are you putting back daily? Because
I'm still around 4,500.
Wow.
Calories.
And is that to maintain?
And that's to maintain. I have a bit of a metabolism. Always have.
You look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
You look like, man, you just command attention when you walked out of the Uber here. Like, oh, he's here.
You know, and I'm embarrassed to say, now, because I've worked so hard throughout all my career, how little I have to do to maintain. I always say it's twice as hard to gain, half as hard to maintain. But I'm consistent with everything, all these little details that we just broke into. Always with the CPAP, always with salting my food, always with getting, good, really high quality whole foods frequently throughout the day. I never miss meals, and it's really not about overeating. And this isn't a Brian Shaw program I'm talking about here. This is just me at 50 years old, trying to maintain my lean mass, exercise regularly, my 10-minute walks. Yeah, that's something I still do.
On your own, you take the kids, or you integrating the family into some of your exercise protocols now?
That's the great thing about 10-minute walks is that they're so sustainable and easy to employ. At the airport, I could do it.
Right.
This morning at the hotel, just walk around circles around the hotel, or you run into the treadmill at their little, gym there. After breakfast in the morning, while my daughter's eating, I'll take a walk, or I'll walk her to school. The kids can come ride their bikes. Every night before bed, I try and get 3 10-minute walks in a day. And it's not just about conditioning, which it is very effective for, a brisk walk. Dr. Stuart McGill uses it for the back mechanic, uses it for stabilization of the core. It's really helpful for the lower back. I use it for improving insulin sensitivity, for nutrient partitioning, for the foods that you eat and whether or not those get utilized as glycogen storage or the amino acid uptake from the stimulus from the muscles. So it's important to me that I use movement to stay healthy and to utilize the foods that I eat more effectively, and I do it with frequency.
Yeah.
This isn't an hour at the end of the day. The body wants to be moved a lot, and that not only helps again with digestion and insulin sensitivity and all that, and improving your VO2 max, but it helps with injury prevention.
Right.
Just to, I talked about how bad my knees were for a decade.
Yeah.
And the kinds of things that you do that just create a lot of blood flow. And there's another research report, I think it was the New York Times recently, about how important it is for memory.
Yeah.
How they do the 10-minute walks with college students and how it improves their test scores.
See, simple stuff.
It's extraordinary. And you see, in some societies, Japan, China, the kids every 45 minutes get up and they do calisthenics and move around. So it's I hate using the word, but the 10-minute walks are life-changing.
Yeah,
they
it's
really
fantastic.
Are. Yeah, and that's whether you're a 400-pound strongman like Thorin Shaw, who I use it for performance enhancement, or you're a 120-pound bikini girl dieting for a show at a calorie deficit.
Yeah,
it works on both ends of the spectrum to I hate to say prevent, but it can definitely ameliorate some of the metabolic adaptation that occurs with a calorie restriction.
That's fantastic.
And that's the battle. That's the big fight. Can I stave off my body's natural tendency to slow metabolism? And the same thing on the other end with the big guys. Can I somehow prevent insulin resistance? Because when you start gaining weight and eating a lot of food, the first thing that happens is the insulin resistance, and now you're partitioning towards fat storage.
I got it.
So on both ends of the spectrum, we employ these little things, like a little more sleep, the 10-minute walks, little tweaks and things here or there to try and battle your body's own defense mechanisms.
How about one more tweak? So I want to hear all about the vertical diet. I'm jumping on it. My coach, Coach Granville, has been ranting and raving about it. Yeah. And I know the whole internet's raving about it. And I've heard you on Ben Pekulski's podcast, and that was when I really got intrigued. Makes a lot of sense. But another little tweak, something maybe a guy growing up in a gym who hasn't really invested in their education may not know. I'd love to hear the mindset to go the distance with the weights, because I feel like the gym takes more than gives back to most guys.
It does, and
long term, they don't realize it in the short term.
Yeah, the big thing is that I think most people train hard enough. I really do. Matter of fact, my experience is most of them overtrain. If you can say that, or you could say under recover, which gets us to this what you just asked, the question you just asked. What's the most important thing for these folks is that they understand that you don't build muscle in the gym. Just like they say with dieting, your abs are built in the kitchen. Yeah. And you hate to keep repeating these old mantras, but they're true. And when you step outside of the gym and figure out that's just the stimulus, and the recovery and the results really come from how disciplined you are in doing all the other things, and that's the sleep, that's the hydration, that's the nutrition. Those are the things that build, a consistent, progressive future. That's what gets you through plateaus.
Keeps you going.
Is the persistence and all those things. And unfortunately, it's not glamorous. It can be time consuming. However, prepping those meals, which is one of the key ingredients to success, whether losing or gaining weight, is meal prep. And there's been plenty of meta-analysis done on this, on studies on has the most successful outcomes when dieting. And the meta-analysis says three things. One is meal prep. Whether you prep or you buy meal prep, even if it's Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig, blasphemy on our show, right? To talk about those folks. But the fact of the matter is it is a calorie equation first and foremost. And I understand as well as anybody that hormones are a key component to progress. But again, the big rocks.
The big rocks.
It's a calorie equation, and if you're able to manage that, whether at a deficit or a surplus, consistently, which is what you have to do. Over an extended period of time, then that's going to be your primary driver of success. So whether you prep or you buy prep, and that's on both ends of the spectrum, you have to be able to track the calorie equation. I
have a question, because I know you're an extremely successful businessman as well. Did your business success transfer to your fitness, or vice versa? Because what you're talking about is what gets measured gets managed.
Yes.
And you can't scale a business if you're not monitoring the key metrics. Same thing in the gym. If you're not measuring the key numbers, you don't have critical numbers. You can't measure you're not going to be able to multiply anything.
You know, I definitely trained before I was running my own businesses. I ran businesses for other people for many years and was quite successful for the same reason I was successful in bodybuilding and powerlifting, without any real genetic predisposition. My pops is, 5'10", 160. I was 140 pounds in college. So I don't necessarily
Did you have a nickname back then? 140 pounds? Was there a nickname?
I had a bunch of nicknames. I care not to even remember. I have to go back through. I have to talk to my psychiatrist about which ones I can. But the big thing for me was, the lesson that I learned was, and I said this many times recently, growing up I had these I was OCD, and I used to count my steps, and I had all sorts of these weird repetitive behaviors. And I used to think it was something I had to hide, and something that I was embarrassed about. And then as I realized, as I got into bodybuilding and powerlifting and later into business, those repetitive behaviors were the key to my success. Is because this is what bodybuilding is about. I just said counting calories, counting sets, counting reps, sleep, just being disciplined and consistent and every day doing repeating what works. And in business, it turned out to be the same thing. It's not home runs. It's the dingers.
Getting on base.
Yes, every single day, making those lists, prioritizing the action items, and just banging away. I watched, we both, many of us, have watched Mark Bell over the last 10 years create an extraordinarily successful business with consistency. Nobody puts up more content than that guy. And he's not out hitting home runs.
Yes. So let's talk about that, because right now we live in the day and age of Instagram where everybody's comparing your today to their before, which isn't a fair comparison. But what they should be doing is comparing your before to their before. So what were you doing in the early days when Stan was ramping up towards becoming the world's strongest bodybuilder? What were the daily disciplines?
It's against the boring stuff. I didn't join a fraternity in college. I didn't hang out late. I was in bed by 10 o'clock every night. I never could miss a meal. I was packing stuff into my bag and taking it to the classes with me and eating in class. And I'm the same way today. I don't even compete. It's been 5 years since I've competed. I carry around my thermos, and I preach about it all over the place. And I put a link to Amazon. Buy your thermos, your little 24-ounce thermos, and heat your meal up before you leave the house so that you've got it. So regularly you can get your food in.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So tell me, what were some of the big early mistakes you made that kind of got your attention, that you had to kind of shift from gas pedal to steering and just managing the car?
Yeah, the biggest one first was I was eating too little and training too much. I was working out 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, way too many sets and reps and volume, too much fatigue, never recovering. And it's eating chicken breast and egg whites and rice cakes, and just not enough calories. So then I flipped the script and I started training a little bit less, a little bit heavier, shorter.
How'd you figure that out? Is it a mentor?
I didn't. I just didn't make much progress over a few years, and then I did come across a mentor, a gentleman by the name of Mark Delp, who promoted bodybuilding shows and owned a gym back in Eugene, Oregon, where I went to college. And he says, no, you're training too much and you're eating too little. And it was really
counterintuitive.
Yeah, because I saw the guy behind the desk at the gym was getting ready for a show, and he was eating, canned tuna out of the can and some rice cakes. And so I thought, well, that's bodybuilding food. And unfortunately, it's still happening today. And that's why I love to be able to talk about this. And yes, I'm repetitive, but every time I catch, the net catches another person suffering from the same preconceived notions. I just got a DM this morning from a woman in Finland, of all places, who wrecked herself getting ready for a show. And I get these weekly, if not daily now. Who just over-dieted, over-cardioed, over-restricted, and then just fell apart. Metabolic adaptation occurred. And, we don't want to talk about any potential permanent conditions, obviously, but, they just end up completely wrecked. They lost a lot of muscle, and so you have to get them to start focusing on being healthy first and getting the body to work for itself.
So did the vertical diet come to be to solve your own issues, or to solve clients, or a combo?
A combo, yeah. It's just kind of the things that I've learned over the 30 years of my career. Obviously, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. Having competed in powerlifting, I used food to gain as much size and strength as I possibly could, and I also used it to try and get down to 4% body fat.
Right.
And I did that over and over and over again for decades. And so, yeah, I really understand dieting very well. And I've used those methods with my athletes, and I've learned from them. It's always a collaboration.
Yeah.
I get feedback. A client just yesterday was having a little bit of trouble with his diet, and I just had him take pictures of all of his food and send it to me, everything he ate all day long, and the actual can or box or bag that it came in, and with the ingredients label, because I want to be that specific about what's inside the food you're eating and how you're preparing it and all of that. So, and we were able to find just a few little things in there. I worked with Stephanie Sanzo from, Steph Fitmum from Australia.
Okay.
And we'd worked together for months before I get some feedback that I had told her to eat 3 or 4 baby carrots with a few meals a day. And so she's eating 120 grams. Well, I don't know what necessarily, 120 grams, I had to actually go weigh that. And look at it. And that's a huge pile of carrots. And so we couldn't figure out why she was having trouble with some bloating. And so just small little adjustments sometimes can make a huge difference in regularity and gut health and digestion.
Do you have a service where people can send you in their food pictures? Like what's the what's the most access that you provide as a coach these days?
These are clients, so I do online coaching for a lot of people, and I have a partner, Daymond McCune, who's a registered dietitian and has a PhD in exercise phys from, and he was head of the dietetic department for UNLV, and so we've collaborated on producing these diets for folks and monitoring them. So yeah, if somebody needs some personal attention, I got to tell you, 95% of it is in the vertical diet.
So you can fix 95% once you get on the vertical diet.
Yeah.
And then there's little tweaks with that last part.
Absolutely. If you think
awesome.
You need more help, then it's there and available for you. I can put a personal eye on it. But I created the diet over the course of many years.
Yeah.
And every time somebody asked me a question, I went in and made an adjustment to, FAQs are in there. So that I've addressed the vast majority, and it covers everything. It's not just a diet.
Yeah.
I cover sleep hygiene. I cover hydration, pre-workout, intra-workout hydration, competition.
Right.
I talk about the big rocks for hypertrophy and strength training. I talk about HIIT training versus. So everything's in there, and I'm very specific about exactly what foods to eat. Yeah. And I take a little, guff from the industry about not being more flexible and maybe seeming somewhat restrictive. But I've just found that if you leave too many options open, then people are filling in the gaps with things that can completely undo everything that you're trying to do.
Hey, what's your intake? Hey, by the way, have you got Daymond John on the vertical diet yet, or what?
No, not yet. I got to work on Daymond. Daymond travels a lot, so and he likes his food, but he's working on it.
Well, we'll come back to Shark Tank in a bit. So, how is your you're a public figure, so there's no immunity to taking criticism from anyone. So what is your take on responding to, say, challenges and your approach? Do you pick and choose them, or because there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this too, and they get caught up in getting lost in debates when the information is sound. Well, how have you just navigated that arena?
The challenge is that you can't paint with a broad brush, that everybody's an individual. Talk about things being dose-dependent and individualistic. Some people may respond poorly to dairy. They may respond more poorly to high-gas vegetables like broccoli, and cauliflower, and whatever, with gas and bloating. And some people might have GERD or acid reflux issues. So, it's hard to paint with a broad brush. I've tried to find, like I said, I made an actual list of foods that I thought were the most likely to create success and the least likely to create complications and problems.
Can we go through some of them?
Yeah.
I think they're fascinating. I know them, and I love for the listeners to kind of understand, to pique their curiosity. We'll get all your stuff in the show notes in there so people can jump on board. But let's get them starting to think hey, what could I integrate maybe this week to start feeling something different? Well,
a lot of folks, they end up demonizing certain foods, particularly when they start dieting. Or they end up dirty bulking. And so, again, without the broad brush, I've now just addressed two ends of the spectrum, the powerlifter, bodybuilder, strongman that wants to gain size and strength, and your bikini figure fitness physique people who want to lose body fat. And both of them, I think, need to be very selective about the types of foods that they eat. So I've gone beyond macros. They're certainly important, proteins, fats, and carbs, certainly important. And I try and look into micros. Because I've noticed that with restriction, when people switch to egg whites and white fish and broccoli, they end up micronutrient deficient. Iron, B12, zinc. a lot of things that are really critical. They tend to demonize fruit. And I've demonstrated my diet with a significant amount of research how beneficial fruit can be for the metabolism and the vitamins and minerals that it provides as well. It actually raises body temperature. And it improves liver function dose dependent. Fructose can, in excess, lead to fatty liver disease. There's no question. But in the absence of carbohydrates, we find that the metabolism will slow down. The liver is responsible for many, many things, 400 functions in the body. And I found that fruit can improve your AST, ALT enzymes in the right dose. And I've also found that it can help keep your metabolism elevated and your body temperature elevated. And I found that when the liver's healthy, the liver converts T4 into T3, the inactive to active form. About 80% of that happens in the liver.
So you like a little fruit throughout the day?
I do. I use it, I hate to say this, I like to almost dose it like medicine, I say.
I like it.
Because you don't want to pound yourself with 150 grams of fructose. This isn't a soda pop solution. Anything in excess is going to be harmful. But what you do want to do is continue to stimulate your metabolism. We talk about metabolic adaptation, and you don't get enough sleep, or you start restricting calories, and your body starts to slow down. Your thyroid starts to slow down. I try and stimulate that a little bit. That's what the iodine's for. It stimulates thyroid. Now, in the industry, we've compensated for that. We just take thyroid, right?
Sure.
In the industry, we compensate for muscle loss from calorie restriction. We just take steroids.
So they're not treating the root problem.
Right. And so I want to get in with nutrition and with the proper training and the proper sleep to try and support that on the front end, so you don't end up, having these problems after the fact.
Gotcha.
And so I do. I keep fruit in. People take dairy out.
Yeah.
Well, calcium's pretty important, and it's not just for bones. Calcium's important for a lot of things. Part of the chemical messaging throughout the body. It can be good for relaxation and contraction of the blood vessels, control of blood pressure. It's pretty critical for a lot of things. And so I do include one of the most bioavailable sources is going to be a dairy source. Some people have problems with milk, so I go to a Greek yogurt. It seems to be easier for people to manage. Or you go with a hard cheese like a cheddar, and that has less lactose even yet. And not a lot, just enough, just a little to keep that in there. So I'm not restrictive in the sense that I eliminate entire food groups. I just try and pick the kinds of foods that give you the micronutrients you need and don't give you all the gas and bloating and indigestion.
I like it.
There are some other things that I do that generally when people go on diets, they'll get rid of red meat. And I just
I've so many fitness models when I've competed for years in that space. They're actually scared of steak. I met a guy in the grocery store once, and he couldn't believe I had steak in my shopping cart.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing, and I've seen it with my athletes every single time. I take a female bikini figure physique competitor off of their egg white and boneless, skinless chicken breast diet and put them on red meat. And I think primarily for women in deficits because of the iron and the B12 that they're restricting. Then they tend to be iron deficient and B12 deficient more than men. And when I put the red meat in, and I also add in a little bit of vitamin C because that increases the iron absorption. And I do that either with an orange or with peppers. Peppers has even more vitamin C than orange. And their iron and B12 levels come up. Their performance changes, their body composition changes, their general sense of well-being, their energy changes. Of course, we've added the sodium in, so now that they have more stamina and endurance during their workouts, which is something historically they had avoided. Sodium chloride, hydrochloric acid, improves their digestion. So now they're absorbing more nutrients, which they had been deficient in. Women make more dramatic changes than men because men tend to cheat on their diets and they tend to eat more food. And so that amount of flexibility, of course, helps remedy some of their deficiencies.
I like it.
But men's problem generally is in weight gain, where they overeat the wrong kinds of foods.
Out of laziness, or maybe not knowing how.
Well, calories.
How do you do it?
Yeah, they just.
You can only eat so much of certain,
Hey, a year ago,
rice and potatoes and.
A year ago, Brian Shaw posted a video where he was eating like 10 or 12,000 calories, and it was pizza, pasta, pancakes.
Did you reach out to him, or did he reach out to you?
He reached out to me, and
because you must have seen that from a distance and like, oh man, like.
Yeah, Hoffler made some pretty remarkable changes. And Hoffler had all the same problems: vitamin D deficiency, no CPAP, insulin resistance, high HA1C. We did his blood tests and found out that he had all of those same problems. He had been dirty bulking. He had been eating a lot of wheat.
Yeah.
And I know that the first thing people freak out about when I say to eliminate certain foods from your diet is that these foods are bad. Well, in those quantities, for those individuals, wheat can be very difficult to digest.
Right.
And so, I just recommend that you eliminate it at least initially, and see if we can't remedy some of those digestion problems. And generally speaking, I have to take a few pounds off of an athlete who has insulin resistance. With Thor, we had to take over 20 pounds, 25 pounds.
So you take it off first, and then reintroduce the better quality ones. So you come back, and then you go back forward.
100%.
Gotcha.
Take the weight off first, and of course that improves insulin sensitivity. We got the 10-minute walks, we get the vitamin D3 in there. Just with the calorie restriction in and of itself is the primary. When you lose weight on any diet, your blood sugars improve, your blood pressure improves, your cholesterol improves, everything. Everything improves. So, losing weight is the key. I'm going to sit here and just say that it's the vertical diet.
Yeah.
Any diet that you'll follow consistently, what's the best diet? The one you'll follow.
Yes.
That you can lose body fat on is going to give you that initial improvement in health. Now, long term, you got to look at those micronutrients. Does the diet create deficiencies? Are you now getting low in B12, low in iron? Those are the things that I try and remedy. And then with a guy like Hofthor, when we flipped the script, and Brian Shaw, he took off 16 pounds. You saw him post a selfie with his shirt off.
Yeah,
he looked fantastic.
Yeah.
But these guys are pro strongmen.
Right.
They can't be losing weight. They got to get under 1,300 pound yoke. I need to put the weight back on, but then we put it on in a way that they didn't have the digestion problems. They were regular. They didn't have the insulin resistance issues. So
was that with the Monster Mash?
Yeah, and the key thing about the Monster Mash is just that it made the white rice in particular.
Tell them what the Monster Mash is.
I just blend red meat, usually bison or a high quality steak that's been ground. Shaw uses a ribeye now because he needs the extra calories and fat to get enough calories in. And he runs it through a meat grinder because it's damn near impossible to eat that much steak for a guy that big. Your teeth would fall out.
Yeah,
just
that's what I'm trying to figure out. Chewing. I mean, it's like a luxury once a day for me if I'm lucky, Yeah, because it's a family meal. You sit down, it takes time to eat.
Now with women, I love to introduce steak because it's laborious to cut and to chew, and so they and of course they get satiated from the extra from the protein. But with men, particularly ones that have to increase their calories, I have Shaw do the meat grinder. Thor has his butcher grind his meat for him. And so they're getting like a high quality top sirloin or New York, or in Shaw's case, because we needed the extra calories, the ribeye, the higher fat steak. He grinds it, and then he cooks it, and he mixes it with white rice and bone broth.
Well, tell me about the bone broth.
Now, bone broth, I'm not going to run around and say that it cures all, like people say about apple cider vinegar.
Sure.
But it does make
your secret.
Yeah, no kidding. It does make the stomach feel better. The collagen does help the lining of the stomach.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole beyond that. I just want to say that and plus it's moist, so it helps you eat more of the rice.
Yeah.
In a situation where you have to be at a calorie surplus, it can be difficult to put down that much rice. You can only take in so much protein to provide you any real benefit in terms of muscle protein synthesis and growth. When you start, this is one of the things about gaining weight, particularly for me as an ectomorph that I discovered. I kept thinking, I just eat more protein, I'll build more muscle, right? Well, we know now there's only so much protein you can use. Right. Yeah, you can digest it all, but there's only so much that's going to be utilized for building muscle at any given time and over the course of any given day. And generally speaking, we think that's about 1 gram per pound of body weight. And maybe 40 grams per meal. That gives you about 100% of the muscle protein synthesis that you're going to benefit from.
Right.
And then, of course, now there's a lot of talk about the refractory period, where I used to eat every 2 hours. It seems now you want to wait about 3, maybe 4. Otherwise, you're not going to get another uptick of muscle protein synthesis. Right. If you eat a meal and it's 40 grams of protein with about 3 grams of leucine, and you get that 100% muscle protein synthesis spike. If you eat again 2 hours later, it won't spike again. And so, and plus, those 2-hour meals can cause insulin resistance as well. You start eating 8 times a day, which I've done many times throughout my career.
Wow.
You have to be careful. Is the body sensitized to utilize those nutrients, or does it start becoming insensitive? And so there are some little things. And again, I hate going down these rabbit holes.
Sure. But depending on where you're at, they're going to apply.
Yes. Yep.
It's all like you said, it's dependent on the individual, their goal, how far along they are, what they've done, what they haven't done yet.
And I used to eat because I needed to get the extra calories in. I used to eat more often. And now I'll eat at least give myself 3 hours.
Yeah.
And 4 might be even more optimal. And you see that I see that in blood work and insulin sensitivity, 24-hour glucose monitoring when I do that with athletes. The feedback that I get from that says that that's more optimal for growth. To eat about every 3 to 5 hours, to have at least 40 grams of protein in your meal. And then if you're a hard gainer, you don't want to be driving protein up too high because there's 2 problems with that. One, satiety.
Right.
It's just hard to eat enough food when it's protein. And number 2 is the thermic effect of food. You're getting fewer net calories from protein because 70% of it really is a net calorie and the rest is burned up as a part of the thermic effect of protein. And then there's fats, and you can't really build much muscle with fat.
Sure.
So you need enough, obviously, so that all of the vitamins and the health benefits can stay happy. And so I drive carbs. Gotcha. And I found this it was interesting, I just read a little blurb.
You drive carbs up higher?
I'll drive carbs higher.
It's funny, me and my brother were both former runners, and we've always responded better when the carbs are higher.
Yeah.
And the protein's a little lower.
And again,
this got big engines, or I don't know.
This is that broad brush again.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking specifically about somebody trying to gain muscle in a hypertrophy situation, preferably training twice a day, not 2-hour sessions twice a day, but maybe 40 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, just to increase anabolism, amino acid uptake, again, the insulin sensitivity. Those are just stimuli. And the increased frequency, of course, gives you a little more volume then. And now you can take in more food and get it utilized preferentially for building muscle, hopefully. And to get the glycogen in the muscle and the sodium in the muscle with those extra carbs, it's just a really happy place for the carbohydrates to be and to help recover from workouts, to fuel the workouts, the anaerobic style of lifting. So I drive carbs at Hawthorne and Shaw are probably 800 to 1,000 grams of carbs a day.
Like white rice, sweet potatoes?
Primarily white rice in quantity. Now, I talk about the vertical diet. There's a foundation of foods. I said you can't put a 3-bedroom house on a 2-bedroom foundation. So I build a foundation of micronutrients first.
I like that. Is that what the vertical means? Like, so you start from the bottom so you can build to the top? Is that what that means? And
then I make adjustments vertically with how much more steak or rice I eat based on the individual's demands. What's their workload? Is this a 240-pound guy training twice a day, or is it a 130-pound person training once a day?
Gotcha.
It's a very different scenario. A lot of folks never even make it to the white rice because I'll try and make sure that they get a potato every day because of the potassium. There's 1,000 milligrams of potassium potato. I want to get 4,700 milligrams into my athletes every day. If they're exercising and sweating, that becomes critical. With the sodium, those two together, your 2 largest electrolytes, most abundant electrolytes, those 2 are very powerful together in terms of performance. And so the foundation of foods includes the potato and it includes the fruit. So you may have used up all of your carbs just with those 2 things.
Gotcha.
Particularly if you tend to have a kind of a mindset of being low carb.
Oh, that's really cool. I get it. So you're filling out, taking care of the micronutrients, but
first,
then only adding. God, I like that. Oh, it's really smart.
And then if you have an increased demand, if you're a larger individual training,
you got to earn those extra calories.
You can say that. You can earn them. And I'll use the white rice because the pasta, pizza, pancakes are going to bloat you. Even oatmeal in any significant amount has kind of a cumulative effect on bloating. I do recommend that if you're going to eat oatmeal, you ferment it overnight. You mix it with warm water and maybe a scoop of yogurt or some apple cider vinegar and let it sit overnight. And then it gets fermented such that when you cook it and eat it, it's already pre-digested in a way. I say the same thing about legumes, beans. Beans, a magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you chew. If you're trying to gain weight and you end up at the burrito shop every day, you're kind of going backwards because it's going to be really hard for your gut to digest those things. Gas and bloating. I focus on digestion regularity. It's one of the first things Brian Shaw said to me when he got on the diet. He's like, dude, I'm regular. And
it's a real problem.
It is a huge problem, and I understand it. I lived it. Running to the toilet 6 times a day just because you had to pound down, giant mounds of pancakes and pizza and pasta, thinking that you just needed the calories.
Right.
And a lot of it was also processed vegetable oil. oils, which everything's cooked in. That stuff's just poison.
Gotcha.
So I eliminate all that from my diet. And let me use this relationship we all understand.
Yeah.
If you got chronic tendonitis in your elbows from low bar squatting, which we all have experienced if we've lifted weights, you don't fix that problem with glucosamine and chondroitin. Right?
You don't?
That's the first thing people ask me. Like, Stan, my elbows hurt, from low bar squatting.
I'm taking the supplement though.
Yeah. Is there something I can take?
Yeah.
I say the same thing about digestion. You don't fix all that aggravation to the stomach with prebiotics and probiotics.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You have to eliminate the source of the problem.
Yeah.
And this is no more obvious than what Dr. Stuart McGill says in The Back Mechanic about eliminating the source of the problem. If your back hurts, you probably shouldn't be in there squatting. So you eliminate the squat.
Yeah.
Maybe go to a safety bar squat. I did this with Mark 12 years ago. I was having chronic tendonitis in my elbows from low bar squatting. And that's why I ended up with the hands out on the bar or using safety bar squats in training. Was because of the tendonitis. That's the only reason I did that.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time in powerlifters, of course, now. But I'm getting away from digestion just to show you that obvious message that when you have digestion problems, it's more important what you don't eat than what you do eat. You can't fix digestion problems with more probiotics and prebiotics and kefir and it just doesn't work that way.
You're talking about a bigger idea here. I think it'd be a good point now to transition this idea into business and other areas of life you're successful in. He's talking about you can't gain something by giving something up, without giving something up. Yeah, you can't. Everyone wants to gain without giving something up, and I think you're talking on a lot of different areas of people's lives. I'd love to talk about your business successes. Which one are you most proud of?
Boy,
you'd be like, so many.
I never even thought of it that way.
You're an innovator, though.
Yeah.
I've always looked up to you. I mean, when I first saw you on Shark Tank, I'm like, holy mackerel! Like, I know it's not easy to get on Shark Tank. I've done research on it's an extensive process, and I believe you've got an entire 20-minute video on your YouTube channel that talks about the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But you've got the cooler, you've got the vertical diet. What other innovations have you come up with over the years?
Well, my first business that I started was a telecommunications company.
Yeah.
But I had been vice president of a telecommunications company for a number of years before that. So I had the intellectual property and knew what I was doing. And it's one of the first things I tell people about starting.
How old were you when you were doing this?
35, 36 before I started my own business.
Okay.
So all those many years before that, I was working for other people.
Gotcha.
And in a management position, running businesses as vice president or what have you. So I had a lot of experience. One of the businesses I ran was multifamily properties. I worked for $1 billion REIT. I ran a $100 million portfolio of properties with many 60 employees for them, and was very successful with them. And so one of the other businesses I did was real estate. So I had some experience in that as well. I purchased multifamily properties and I converted some to condos and sold them, and some I ran as apartments. And I had a number of those properties I had accumulated over the years using the revenue from the phone company.
Were you doing this before 2008 or after?
Well, that was one of it was right in there. I actually was exposed to millions and millions of dollars of real estate at the time the market collapsed. Tens of millions of dollars.
Did you lose a lot?
I lost over $20 million in the real estate market.
Wow.
Yeah, you went to bed on a Friday
overnight?
night. Almost overnight is the way it seemed. When I look back at it, it seems like it was overnight. Because nobody would loan anymore.
Yeah.
I had just finished a 40-lot subdivision of single-family homes. We'd sold maybe, 18 of the homes, and then boom, overnight, nobody would loan on the homes. We couldn't sell them. We were sitting on all of them. We were probably in $230,000 per home construction costs, and had to dump them for about $160,000.
So the bank gave you a call on Monday morning?
Yeah. Back then, you could get in on a property for about $1,000 on the land, and the bank would loan you 100% of the construction costs. And so it was a free-for-all. We were going crazy.
Free money.
Same thing with the apartment communities. 3% down. I could buy an apartment community, and they would loan the 3% down included the construction costs for the condo conversions. So I wasn't just buying the apartment community, they were also lending me the conversion costs at the same time for 3% down. Then when the market collapsed, the phone rang and said, we need an 80% debt to equity on the new valuation And the new valuation, let's just say, for instance, it was a $4 million property that lost 25% in value. All of a sudden, it's worth $3 million.
Yep.
And they need 80% debt to value on $4 million. So way upside down.
Gotcha.
They wanted millions in cash because I owned multiple properties at the time. So without getting too deep into it, I just got killed in that market.
Did you recover?
Yes, I recovered. Fortunately, I was somewhat diversified. I had the other business. I started a new company, an engineering firm.
Can I pause you? The reason I asked you that was because I feel like a lot of people are afraid to do something out of fear it's going to fail.
I got to tell you, though, my risk tolerance, now that I have kids, I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old.
You're more conservative now?
I won't mortgage my home. I won't sign a personal guarantee. All those things I did previously. Against my real estate, I mortgaged. I didn't mortgage my home, but I signed personal guarantee. And that was an asset that then was collectible or foreclosable against those apartment communities. So, I was the guy back then with no kids, no mortgage, no wife, that would double or nothing. Everything.
Gotcha.
And I was in business to win. Yeah. And I was leveraging.
You're playing to win, not playing to lose.
That's right.
It's a big lesson.
Yeah. And I leveraged, because leverage is key, especially with real estate, in terms of making a significant amount of money long term. So, I got killed in that market, and I look back on it. It was an adventure. There certainly was. The shame is that I remember so many people at the time, stories in the news. You probably all remember jumping in front of trains.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember.
People's homes getting foreclosed, losing their cars, their house, their wife.
Crazy.
Yeah. Tragic.
So how did you come out? How did you survive? Did you have did you just
Well, my mindset was different. To me it was all monopoly. It was a risk venture. You never really have the 20 million. It's paper. It was equity in properties. It's not something that somebody comes and takes from you, like your home.
Yeah.
So I looked at it as an adventure. To me, it was always monopoly. I didn't grow up wealthy, and so I always knew I could work, put a house over my head, pot the piss in, food on the table. That's not hard for me, and I don't identify myself by the things that I own.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a $2 million home and a Rolls Royce. I lived on a lake. I had boats and sea views and all that stuff. And I was sitting in the second row right behind Donald Trump at the UFC fights.
Yeah. No kidding.
I was fat catting for a while.
No kidding.
And I'm certainly comfortable now. I've been successful since. I've built other businesses. But I'm a little more conservative. I don't own a Rolls Royce anymore. I didn't go out and buy a $2 million home. I own my assets outright, and I don't have any debt or any. I haven't signed any, haven't leveraged against anything on them. So everything that I build now, I build, with cash.
Yeah.
I'm a little more conservative in that regard. If I do partner on a business, I don't have personal guarantee on that.
Right.
Everybody's at risk there.
What's the importance of investing in yourself early or now? Everyone's talking about you got to invest in yourself. You got to hire a coach. You got to invest time and money to get more time and money. Do you resonate with all that?
Yeah, I do. I always say pay yourself first, but for me that was a matter of some other things. That was, I mentioned in my Stress for Success rant that at times in my life I had compromised sleep, I had compromised good nutrition and exercise, and it impacted me negatively in terms of stress and anxiety and all of that. Just poor health. I was trying to be successful in business, so like a lot of folks, you work more hours, 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, and you burn the candle at both ends, and you sacrifice sleep. So I did that for a short bit and discovered what a horrible impact it was. So when I say pay yourself now, I say that you're going to perform better if you remember the fundamentals.
What do you mean by pay yourself first?
Make sure that you get adequate sleep.
Gotcha. You're talking about taking care of the foundation.
Yes. Yep. Taking care of the foundation.
The personal foundation too.
Yeah, the organism, the healthy organism that makes all of this happen. It's pretty interesting because I hate bragging about this, but 2.5 years ago I did a video where I talked about my vitamin D3 being low and just being kind of generally not very healthy. I was getting sick too often. I haven't had a cold in 2.5 years. Damn near 3.
That's amazing.
And I travel all over the world, and I've got kids at home that bring home sniffles from school. I'm shaking hands and talking to folks and flying in airplanes and still training hard. and I'm not taking super greens or anything special like that, but I've consistently paid attention to, the rant I was doing at the time, I was talking about my vitamin D3 deficiency, and I was down at like 20. Brian Shaw was down at 25. Dan Green, 25. Pretty critical for health.
Is this something can be fixed with sunlight, or you got to go supplementation?
You generally have to supplement. It's hard to get from food. Ideally, you'd get sun, but not everybody has that opportunity. Sure. A lot of the folks in the UK or in Canada, for instance, and Seattle, where I was living for many years, Alaska, where I have clients. I really encourage sun. Mike Mutzel from High Intensity Health got one of those light machines and showed a before and after of his testosterone levels from using light therapy. In the home daily, maybe 15 minutes twice a day or something like that. Dr. Stashik Almanac, a sleep doctor who was a neurologist for many years, talks about light therapy and sun and how important it is for your health, and not just mental but physical as well. So that's huge. And so vitamin D3 is a big component of my program. It's right there with salt and a CPAP, vitamin D3. Those are the 10-minute walks. Those are some of the key components. Getting a blood test, remedying these deficiencies, these micronutrient deficiencies, and how critical that is for your health. And I found that it's inversely related to HA1C, so I found that my blood sugar started to go down when my vitamin D3 went up. My immune system improved. This is about the time I started introducing more salt and more iodine as well. Those are pretty critical for immune system. Iodine in particular, because it detoxifies the system. I hate using that word, but things like fluoride and bromide and chlorine, they lodge into the same receptor sites as chlorine and as iodine, and they wreak havoc on the body. When you start taking iodine, some people get a little iodine flu because they're cleaning all these toxins out of their system.
Interesting.
Because the iodine comes in and displaces it. It's another thing I mentioned earlier. We compensate in the figure fitness bikini industry with thyroid medication. That doesn't fix the iodine deficiency. And the iodine's not just important for thyroid, it's important for the immune system. It's also important for digestion. It's part of the chain of events that occurs to create hydrochloric acid. So that's why these things are in my diet, and I preach about them, all these little teeny things, an orange and some cranberry juice and some iron and B12 from your red meats and your bone broth with the collagen. To me, I'm very selective about all these foods for a reason. The spinach for the potassium, the potato for the potassium and the magnesium in the spinach. I'm real particular about all of these things because when any of these deficiencies occur, it's an orchestra. And if one of those instruments is not there or is out of tune, it affects everything.
You're only as good as the weakest link.
Exactly.
And the body compensates, which is a nice thing, but then can become an ugly thing down the road. Can we go back to business and talk?
Yes, sorry.
No, it's all good. No, I'm really curious. We got a lot of entrepreneurs listening. Shark Tank. Where's the cooler at now? And what was the relationship like working with Daymond John? What did you learn from each other? Or I'm sure you taught him stuff too. And
Daymond's a lot like I learned from Mark Bell. He's very prolific. He's out hustling. And that's where you're at now. If you want to develop your own business. A lot of people, they want to go out and get a pro card. And they think that somehow that's going to get them some sort of sponsorship. Or it might be a stocking stuffer on your resume. But most people now build businesses with content. They just
value.
Have to,
You've got your rants, you got your YouTube channel. You're here now.
100%.
You came into town.
And I'm not even very good at it.
But the fact that you came here to get on a podcast, a guy that I learned from Grant Cardone. You follow him, by the way?
I haven't.
Well, no?
No.
He's the number one sales guy in the world, Grant Cardone. You either love him or hate him. He's my guy, though.
I think there's something to learn from everyone.
But he just beats these social platforms to death.
Yes.
He realizes it's, you can say what you want as much as you want and there's no bill.
That was the big thing I was about to say as soon as you were finished, but you already said it. There's no bill. Imagine what it was like 10 years ago if you wanted to start a supplement company. You would have to buy $10,000 a page magazine advertising. And that's not good for AMI and their magazines and Flex Magazine and the rest of them because nobody's, I say nobody, but fewer people are paying significant dollars for magazine advertising now. And they're marketing via, the internet. Getting people to help influencers, etc. Didn't Shreds build their entire business? The supplement company just on influencers.
Big time.
So it's huge. So the point is you have to create your own business now. If you want somebody to sponsor you, the first thing they're going to look and see is how many people do you influence?
Yeah. Big time.
That's huge.
So what's growing the growth? Just talk, the vertical diet. You're obviously very articulate. You're very well spoken. You don't have a hypey manner about you, and you've got the street cred, obviously, and you've been around for so long. So what is the fuel you've got to add to the fire to just make vertical diet grow? Like, what do you need to do more of? Is it more podcasts, just more events, or is it more marketing? What is it?
It's a little bit of everything. Yeah. I still take on.
What's the big mover though? Like, if you do this one thing more than anything else, what would really make it go?
For me, the biggest thing is that the customers get success from the program. I've had this conversation with Hafthor recently that I've been using the vertical diet with clients for many, many years.
Huh.
And it wasn't until Hafthor's huge success, the trifecta of winning the Arnold, the Europe, and the World's Strongest Man, and promoting the vertical diet, that I brought it to market. And what's interesting, and this is part of a business story, is 2 years ago, when I started working with Hafthor, I believe that anything you give for free has no perceived value.
I'm glad you said that, by the way.
People
got to get off the free train, man.
Yeah.
Like, your stuff is amazing on YouTube, but you can go so many levels deeper if you actually work with you. Yeah. And people don't get that. I don't know why.
Behind the scenes, you should have some sort of product that you can monetize. Mark Bell does a lot of free content, and we do that. We give out a lot of information. When I went to Iceland and did that seminar for Hafthor, and the guys wanted to videotape it, and then they wanted to put it on the internet, I was fine. My wife was like, "Oh my God, you're giving everybody all your information. You did an entire seminar on the vertical diet. They don't even have to buy your stuff now." And I said, no.
Okay.
I said, you'll see. It's when you give people information and they believe it and they understand it and they see that it's credible and
you have an abundance mentality.
Yeah, I cannot watch a video. If I watch a good video on YouTube, I have to watch it again with a piece of paper and a pen. Because you can't remember all that stuff and you can't really effectively implement it without some sort of plan. Yeah. So I provide a plan. And I tell everybody, we've had a conversation today, I've talked about 90% of what the vertical diet is.
Yeah. And what you're doing, though, I want them to pick up on some things. One, you recognize there's 7 billion people in the world. Yeah. We haven't put a dent in the amount. I could give away everything I know to my 30,000 people on Instagram. There's still almost 7 billion people I can reach.
Well, and with a 90% failure rate, recidivism, those same people are going to keep coming back, because that's the quandary we're in right now. Is that most people, they'll jump on something for a while, then they'll fall off, and then they come back and they fall off.
Well, and I'm so glad you said that the thing that you need to do more of for the vertical diet to grow is more just genuine, authentic success stories.
Yeah.
And that's literally how I've grown my coaching program this past year. I'm just featuring my top students in a non-hypey way, just sharing their stories.
That's huge. We started that Instagram, and I talked about this with my wife years ago about Bill Phillips' success.
Yeah. Before and afters.
Yeah. It's just business 101, and he did it better than anybody.
You know that book, Body for Life, 75 pages of that book are just before and afters. Yeah. And I didn't understand why. I actually was with Bill Phillips at a private mastermind, and he said, people believe you can do it. They believe Stan can do it.
Yeah.
And they believe that, your top 2-3 clients can do it too, but they don't believe that you can do it.
So themselves.
Your whole business model has to be built around helping other people believe, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can give this thing a shot.
And that's why I started the Vertical Diet Instagram page, and we feature the before and afters of people and their success stories. And I see it every day, because I get 100 DMs a day from people with these great testimonials about blood pressure, about blood sugars, type 1, type 2 diabetics improving their condition. And I post those testimonials up on the site. And then, like you said, when people start seeing that, they start believing it. I have a vertical diet book. We just signed a deal with Victory.
Oh, good Publishing. For you. Awesome.
And that's going to be out in about 6 months. That's the group that did Kelly Starrett's book, The Supple Leper.
Oh, good job.
And it's the same group that did The Paleo Solution and a host of other books. Both were New York Times bestsellers.
I'm going to buy a bunch of books from you and gift them to a lot of my students.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So definitely, Granville's been ranting and raving about the vertical diet. I'm on it. I'm getting on it.
Yeah.
But I just I heard Ben talk about it a long time ago, and it wasn't like I didn't believe, but it's just like you have to hear over and over and over. Like you're talking about being prolific. You can't expect someone to just jump ship. Like not everyone's a spontaneous buyer, if you will.
Yeah. And it's it's not gimmicky. Right after I say it's not gimmicky, I'm going to mention a few diets that I don't think are gimmicky necessarily, but people jump on these and they might not be sustainable. They may have some shortcomings. A lot of folks jump into keto because they've heard about it, and there's certainly some problems with that for performance athletes.
Sure.
Or carnivore.
Yeah.
And there might be some, talk about restrictive, there might be some deficiencies that could accumulate over time there. They serve a purpose. Like I said, or intermittent fasting even, I think has some benefits, it has some drawbacks.
Sure.
If it works for you, if you as an individual are able to comply with intermittent fasting or carnivore or keto and you get the results that you need, then that's the best diet for you. Whether or not that's sustainable long term or it starts to manifest deficiencies over time, that's one of the things that I was concerned about. That's why I focused first and foremost on gut health.
Gotcha.
How does your stomach feel? How are you regular? What's the quality of the stool? That matters. I ask my clients these questions. It's important to me. All of the results, in my mind, are just manifestations of that. They're just side effects of health, of good health.
Yeah.
And so I tried to create a diet that was simple, sensible, and sustainable.
I love it.
It's not magic. I don't have anything in there that would be extreme by anybody's opinion. If anything, folks that get on the diet and start to use it just feel better.
Yeah.
Over a very short period of time because they're probably adding some salt, adding some potassium to their diet. They've left fruit in. They're getting a little bit of dairy. They're getting their iron and B12 from red meat.
Right.
Taking a little bit of bone broth. They're just finding the first thing they say is, I don't feel bloated anymore. And I'm regular. And that to me is the key to everything else that happens after that because they'll at least be consistent on that program.
Now, hey, you had a big launch, right, with Vertical Diet meals, done for you meals?
Yeah, the Vertical Diet meals was huge.
Please tell me you're coming to Canada.
We're
You're going to get asked that a million times this weekend.
The hard part is customs.
Sure.
And so we're working with a distributor in Canada that we can send a semi of meals to. These are meals that we prepare and we flash freeze. We have millions of dollars in preparation equipment that makes these meals so good. It's definitely a competitive advantage for us in the marketplace. Is the taste of our meals is extraordinary because we have moisture control ovens. So when we cook our salmon, the salmon's cooked in a humidity controlled oven.
Holy cow.
So it's still moist when you get it. We use what's called a MAP, a modified atmospheric pressure system, to seal the meals. So afterward, it's like a giant seal meal.
Yeah.
After we're done cooking it in these moisture controlled ovens, then when we seal it, we draw a lot of the oxygen out so it doesn't age as quickly.
Yeah.
And then we put it into a flash freezing unit. And so we don't have as much accumulation of moisture, which then freezer burns your food.
Gotcha.
And now we can ship it all over the country. We cook everything on Saturday and Sunday and ship everything on Monday and Tuesday.
Gotcha.
And it gets to everybody by Thursday or Friday. So the quality of the food, the taste of the food is extraordinary. And when I went in and worked with their chef and their dietitians, we sourced the food from the same locations. I get my bison from Costco. It's Great Range bison. Well, we went to Great Range bison down in Colorado, and we said, look, we want to source our food from you. So we got the highest quality ingredients we could, and then we cooked it we render our own beef tallow, and we boil our own bone broth.
Wow.
And so we don't use any vegetable oils in any of our food. One of the things I can't do is eat it at like an IHOP or whatever, even just go into some eggs, because they cook it in frickin' canola oil.
You can feel it, eh?
I never make it out of the restaurant.
Wow.
And I know.
See, you're inspiring people to experience what you're experiencing.
Yeah, and it's for a lot of people. Those processed vegetable oils. I mean, it's becoming more and more known now how horrible those are for your system.
So I asked you about coming to Canada, but I want to just maybe wrap up on how you manage opportunity costs, because I'm sure you've got big goals still in the States. There's so much more opportunity there. So how do you not spread yourself thin? And because coming to Canada, I mean, sure, there's you talked about not chasing pennies and chasing dollar bills. Is coming to Canada chasing pennies maybe now? Or
I'm presenting at the Swiss symposium tomorrow, or actually tonight. So it's an opportunity for me to touch more people, and you cannot lose sight of that. Right. People get on their radio or whatever, and you just can't lock yourself. You have to touch people, talk to people. It's what's nice about the podcasts or the rants is that it's a little more personable. But then I also answer my DMs. I try like heck to answer. I get over 100 a day DMs from people, at least briefly, or I copy and paste an article that they can read and give people answers to that. You do Q&As from your people that come in with questions. So you have to get around and touch people, get to expos, get to do seminars. I still do seminars at clubs. I'll be in Switzerland with Eddie next week. I'm back up here in Canada, over in I think not Edmonton, but Calgary next week.
Beautiful, cool.
So I'm traveling just about every weekend, trying to get the word out.
This would be a good place to finish off. Just touching on a more personal note, and with family, having a partner that's in alignment. Because I travel a lot as well too. I got 3 young ones, 5, 3, and 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So
congratulations.
I think you've got 3.
I got 6 and 4. My 2 little ones. 20 is the oldest.
Wow. So you got what? So I need some advice here. How do you ensure that the main thing stays the main thing, family?
Yeah, I always prioritize that. I involve them in it. This is what Daddy does, and we go on 10-minute walks together, and they're part of.
I like it.
Yeah, if they're running around in the background and I'm doing a podcast at home and stuff, then people can hear my kids, and even in the middle of the podcast, Daddy, Daddy. It's just part of.
Yeah, I love that you had an Instagram video. I don't know how much you were doing trap bar deadlifts. You have maybe 8 plates aside or something, and your little guy walked in front.
Yeah,
that was so
normal
awesome
for them.
Yeah,
I just incorporate them, and I thought about that today too. Just on my way here, my dad. I'm just like him. Now I'm buying my discount tennis shoes. I remember him going to GI Joe's on Sunday with a coupon that he had cut out of the newspaper to go get some $8 GI Joe's.
Is it getting scary?
Yeah, and so now I've become my father.
I know. We joke about that too. That's right.
And my kids, same way. It's just leading by example. And I have them. They can participate. I take them everywhere. If I go to the gym, they can go to the daycare. If I go to Home Depot, they come with me, and I just make sure that they can participate in just about everything I do.
Oh wow! Well, Stan Efferding, that was an outstanding conversation. I thank you so much for sharing. So many people are going to get so much value out of this. I hope they pulled out the bigger lessons for their personal life, for their nutrition, for their fitness goals, and for their business endeavors.
Yeah.
So have a killer time this weekend at Swiss, and I know you'll bring the thunder.
Yeah.
And let's go get a little lift in here.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Stan.